Coming up on 5 Minute News. Jurors in second day of deliberations in Derek Chauvin trial. Chicago lawmaker wants police officers trained to be less ignorant of race. And mobile phone sector declares climate action breakthrough. It's Tuesday, April 20. I'm Anthony Davis. Jurors are meeting for a second day of deliberations today in the trial of Derek Chauvin, the former Minneapolis police officer charged with murder and manslaughter after kneeling on the neck of a dying George Floyd during an arrest last May. The 12 sequestered jurors are considering 3 weeks of testimony from 45 witnesses, including bystanders, police officials, and medical experts, along with hours of video evidence that makes up the most high-profile U.S. case involving accusations of police misconduct in decades. Chauvin, who is white, has pleaded not guilty to second-degree unintentional murder, third-degree depraved mind murder, and second-degree manslaughter. The jury began its deliberations on Monday after listening to closing arguments for most of the day. Jurors must reach a unanimous verdict on each charge to convict or acquit. A single holdout would result in a mistrial, although the state could then try Chauvin again. Chauvin pushed his knee into the neck of Floyd, a 46-year-old handcuffed black man, for more than 9 minutes outside the grocery store where Floyd had been accused of buying cigarettes with a fake $20 bill. The case hinges on whether the jury believes the prosecution argument that Chauvin used excessive and therefore illegal force that killed Floyd. The defense has countered that Chauvin behaved as any reasonable police officer would, and sought to raise doubts about the cause of Floyd's death, saying heart disease or even the exhaust fumes from the nearby police car may have been factors. The jury is comprised of 4 white women, 2 white men, 3 black men, 1 black woman, and 2 multiracial women, according to court records. The court has promised to shield their identities until some time after they give their verdict. A state lawmaker who represents Chicago's West Side introduced legislation on Monday that would require all police officers in Illinois to be schooled on the intersection of law, race, and racism, in the hopes of teaching officers the culture and the lifestyles of different communities and people. If we want to change the behavior of police, we have to educate them, said Representative LaShawn Ford. The West Side Democrat said requiring officers to be taught critical race theory is about tackling racism and becoming aware of our very own shortcomings and ignorance about our peers. But the head of the Chicago Union for Rank-and-File Police Officers said the bill is redundant and ridiculous. The legislation, which Ford filed on Monday, would amend the state's police training law and create a critical race theory academy comprised of members ranging from scholars to sociologists and community organizers who are experts in the theory, as well as members of the General Assembly and law enforcement officers. Working together, they would draft the curriculum for the academy, which would be attended by police academy candidates and officers already serving. The potential list of topics includes courses on procedural justice, arrest and use of control tactics, search and seizure, cultural competency, including implicit bias, and racial and ethnic sensitivity, and constitutional and proper use of law enforcement authority. Critical race theory has been defined by the American Bar Association as a critique on how the social construction of race and institutionalized racism perpetuate a racial caste system, one that relegates people of color to the bottom tiers because of the lasting effects of the legacy of slavery and segregation on black people as well as other people of color. The global cell phone industry has become the first sector to announce a critical industry breakthrough as part of its race to eliminate emissions. More than a third of mobile phone operators by revenue have met rigorous criteria set by the UN's Race to Zero campaign and committed to net zero emissions by 2050 at the latest. Already, 36% of the cell phone industry by revenue and 31% of the industry by connections are in the race to zero. Participants include Telefonica, Vodafone Group, EE, Telus, T-Mobile US, Verizon, Swisscom, and Orange Group. In January, the industry was the first sector to reach this major movement. Today, mobile operators with science-based carbon reduction targets now cover 50% of mobile connections and 65% of industry revenues globally. The cell phone industry is responsible for 220 million tons of carbon dioxide, 0.4% of total global carbon emissions. But while the sector is still committed to eliminating its emissions, it believes its biggest contribution will be by helping other sectors of the economy reduce their carbon emissions through digitization. You can subscribe to 5 Minute News on YouTube with your preferred podcast app. Ask your smart speaker or enable 5 Minute News as your Amazon Alexa flash briefing skill. Subscribe, rate and review online at 5minute.news. 5 Minute News is an Evergreen Podcast covering politics, inequality, health and climate, delivering independent, unbiased and essential world news. Daily.